Good day, everyone. Today we will have our first part of our discussion on the second half of the semester, and we will start with the topic about the corporations, specifically the revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, which is recently took effect last February 23, 2019, after several years, even decades. So Republic Act number 1123-2 actually revised the old corporation code, Batas Pambansa bilang 68. So to start the discussion, let's have the definition of the corporation. So take note, when it comes to the definition, this also contains the attributes or characteristics of what is a corporation. So Section 2 defines a corporation as an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of successions and powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidental to its existence. So if we have to look closely by the definition, we could see na nga the attributes of the corporation. So let's look one by one of what are the attributes of a corporation as per definition, section 2 of the revised corporation code. So one of the attributes of a corporation is that it is an artificial na being. So a corporation is an artificial being. What does it mean? So as an artificial being, of course, it is given by law with all the rights, powers, and liabilities usually accorded to a natural person. So technically, it has no physical existence, although it occupies a principal place of business. So it has its own set of rights and obligations as provided by law. We have discussed this one, I think, in our partnership, I think, and we have touched partly on corporations. So as an artificial person, what can a corporation do then? Ano yung pwedeng gawin ng isang corporation? So as an artificial person or an artificial being, it can only act through its directors who are chosen by its stockholders. So it's basically it's an entity that exists apart from its stockholders, but it has its own set rights of obligations and rights and obligations as being provided by law. So these directors naman would elect as well their officers will ultimately would select for their employees, agents, sino pa ba, and they are the ones that make the company policy. So that's the essence of being an artificial, the corporation being an artificial person. So, and consequently, since we treat a corporation as an artificial person, take note ha, the same thing na it could take and hold like any other natural person. It could take and hold property and then transfer the same. It could contract obligation. It could sue and be sued in its corporate name in the same manner as a natural person. So although the stockholders again composes the corporation, they are not the corporation. Why? Because the corporation is the person itself. It's a juridical entity that exists apart from its stockholders. And then second attribute of what is a corporation is a corporation is created by contemplation of law. Meaning the corporation unlike a partnership, just a point of reference or comparison, it cannot arise by a voluntary agreement between persons or partners, diba? In a corporation, it should be that the state must give its consent either through a special law in case of government corporations such as our school, o di kaya man through a general law, which is the Revised Corporation Code. So, it means that, ibig lang sabihin niyan that it can exist only when the government or when the state or any sovereign power would grant consent to its existence, diba? So, it may be nga created in accordance with the Corporation Code or Revised Corporation Code or through a special charter, like cases of GOCCs and state universities. They are actually through a special charters. Ano? And then, or public corporations. So, ang treatment po kapag po ay created under the Revised Corporation Code, they are considered as private na mga corporation. So, a corporation comes into existence, take note, upon the issuance of the Certificate of Incorporation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, then and only then will it acquire the juridical personality to sue and be sued, enter into contracts, hold or convey property, or perform any other legal act in its own name. So, we have to take note. Another point is, a corporation, again, another attribute of a corporation is it has the right of succession. So, what does it mean? It means to say that these private corporations, so created under the RCC, could continue to exist despite for deaths of stockholders o di kaya man changes when it comes to the composition of the stockholders. So, it means to say that even though in terms na nagkakaroon po ng transfer ng shares of stocks to another stockholder, so from one to another, and basically even nga for insolvency, incapacity in any of the directors o di kaya man officers and employees, it would not affect the powers and attributes of a corporation. It continues to exist. So, its existence is limited only by its articles of incorporation also, and then it may be subject to a covariant proceedings under Rule 66 of the Rules of Court and may be shortened by the dissolution. Important aspect with the Revised Corporation Code under Section 11 is the, unlike before, now the corporations or private corporations basically have only a term of 50 years tapos pwede silang mag-renew. But under the RCC, they have perpetual existence, and the only exception if they would put it in their articles of incorporations for a specific period of existence. So, that's one of the limitation. Another is through a covariant proceeding. So, basically naman kasi, etong covariant proceeding is a, this is actually a challenge on the part of the government. So, it's like questioning existence of entities, or basically here in the case of corporations, as to their right of existence. So, parang challenge natin, challenge ng government, by what authority you are operating kung you are not basically incorporated, diba? So, kung hindi ka naman na-create by operation of law, wala naman pong nag-grant sa iyong consent through the state, so hindi ka basically parang hindi ka talaga registered as a corporation with SEC. So, in those cases, the government could file for a covariant case against that entity and ultimately would cause for the closure or seizure of operation. And at the same time, it may be shortened by causes for dissolution under Title 14 of the Revised Corporation Code. So, basically, yun po yung atin pong right of succession as one of the attributes of a corporation. Another attribute is that, for the last part, it has the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidental to its existence. So, ano ibig sabihin nito? So, a corporation has no power except lang those expressly conferred on it by the Revised Corporation Code and by its Articles of Incorporation. So, those which may be incidental to such conferred powers, those that are implied from its existence, and those which are reasonably necessary to accomplish its purpose are allowed. Pwede yun. So, in turn, a corporation exercises said powers through its board of directors and or through its duly authorized officers or agents. So, ibig sabihin nito, ang corporation, being a mere creature ng law, it has the powers only kung ano lang yung kino-confer or ginagrant sa kanya during the act of or by the act of incorporation or its creation, 'di ba? So because basically the powers of a corporation, it can do only what is also impliedly or parang hindi siya expressly stated but allowed by law or the Revised Corporation Code or if it is through a special charter. Tapos naman, being treated as a natural person, it can do anything provided it is not forbidden by law as well. So, yun po yung ibig sabihin nun na meron siyang mga attributes and properties authorized by law or incident to its existence. So, that is for the attributes of a corporation. So, being a creature of law, its powers are limited by law, by express terms of its articles of incorporation, as well as those essential or necessary to carry out of its purpose or purposes under such articles. It would be further illustrated under Section 35. And then Section 35, last paragraph of the Revised Corporation Code, and those by necessary or incidental to its powers so conferred. So, kasi baka tayo po'y walang ideya na once you have your entity as a corporation, 'di ba? Once you register it with SEC, basically you have to declare ano ba yung pong pinaka primary at saka secondary purpose ng operation. So, may it be in a form, ano ba yung industry na mainly you would go into or yung nature ng transactions or ordinary course of business. So, kung ikaw ay into solid wastes management, so, yun yung primary purpose. Pwede mong ilalagay doon na ang secondary purpose mo ay yung related to recycling. Minsan, may mga pagkakataon, although hindi siya kasama dun po sa ating purpose, but it is incidental sa iyong ginagawa at kailangan mong gawin para ma-attain din mo yung ultimate purpose, po pwede yun. So, yun yung ibig sabihin na, it's being declared in your Articles of Incorporation, it's being allowed under the Articles of Incorporation. Now, let's talk another very important doctrine or ika nga a concept under the Revised Corporation Code and specifically under Section 2. Ang concept ng corporate juridical personality. Ito'y sobrang gasgas na because we have discussed this one already in our previous na topic. Ano ba yung corporate juridical personality? Para bagang kung napapansin niyo with all the discussions that we have taken up, ang corporation ay may kanyang parang masks na siya ay tao, 'di ba? So, yun. May kinalaman po dito itong discussion po natin with regard to corporate juridical personality. What does it mean? Corporate existence and juridical personality of a corporation basically daw nagsa-start from the date that the Securities and Exchange Commission, take note of this one, issues a certificate of incorporation under its official seal. So, meron kayong matatanggap na from SEC na para po siyang tawag nito, kaitsura na din siya ng business permit. I just forgot the kulay. Para ding orange, green, yellow. Basta ganun din to may official seal ng Securities and Exchange Commission. So, bakit po pala, by the way, natin dun sa SEC nire-register ang isang corporation? Because they are the regulatory body of corporations, diba? So, sila yung nagre-regulate. And then, persons desiring to incorporate must submit to the Securities and Exchange Commission yung intended corporate name for the verification. So, kapag pipili tayo ng pangalan, we have to submit at least, I think, if I'm not mistaken, two or one. And with the undertaking na kapag po mayroon pong similar na name, would change it. So that's a purpose of verification. And another is that you need to submit the Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws. So here, sa Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws, basically naman, ang Articles of Incorporation, ang laman dito ay para mga biodata po ng isang corporation na i-establish. Nandun po yung ating pong corporate name, yun atin pong, didiscussin naman natin to later on, pero just a preview. Nandun po yung ating mga founders or tawag natin doon ay mga incorporators. Magkano po yung kanilang shares each. Kasi basically, you have to declare as well kung how much yung outstanding stock, how much is subscribed. And then meron ding requirement with regard to how much should be paid and subscribed out of your outstanding na stocks. And then, yun pong ating bylaws. So, alam nyo naman ang bylaws, parang ito yung internal rules ng isang corporation. Nandun nakasaad kung paano po ang conduct ng meetings, paano po ang election ng board of directors. So basically, kasama po yan sa isa-submit natin with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Kasama na din doon ang attachment ng mga treasurer's affidavit, bank account, na nagsasabi nandun nakalagay yung, so basically yung treasurer's affidavit ng corporation, parang attesting to or certifying to of how much is subscribed and how much is paid out of the subscribed capital stock and outstanding stock of the corporation. But take note for one-person corporation, yung OPCs kung tatawagin, they're not required to submit in file for bylaws. Kasi yun nga, as mentioned a while ago, ang bylaws naman kasi, ang internal rules as to the conduct of the management ng corporation. So, ikaw lang mag-isa ang nagpapatakbo ng corporation, kailangan mo So, basically, hindi na po siya kailangan mag-file po ng bylaws. And, another concept when it comes to corporation is the doctrine of separate juridical personality. Ano ba yung doctrine of separate juridical personality? Lakas ng ulan. I-off ko muna to. I-separate na mag-iingay kasi.